I love hearing about the good old days, especially these old Hall of Fames. And man, I don't know why, but November 96 just seems like maybe one of my peak moments in my fandom. I loved that Survivor Series weekend. And I know it was a big weekend for you. I mean, we know we're going to see the debut of The Rock, and we're going to see Stone Cold level up. We're going to see the attitude in Shawn Michaels start to build when he drops the title to Sid. But Survivor Series 96 was still a pretty damn important show for you in your career too, wasn't it?
It was, and it was one of the worst nights of my life. I got counted out when I wasn't supposed to. Tim White, who's my dear friend, first time we first started getting the earpieces in, or something less changed in it, or something had changed. Somebody was in Tim's ear, and for some reason he wasn't used to it, or something was different. And I think Bob Holly was the one that rolled me up. I'm supposed to kick out, and I didn't kick out. I did. I'm sorry, I got that wrong. I kicked out. Tim counted me out. So 1, 2, I kick out. You can look at the tape; it's clear. I kicked out. Tim counts 3. I'm supposed to go over. This is my big push in the Survivor Series. I'm one of the last ones in there. I don't know if I'm like the last one or whatever. I'm on the winning team, and Tim counts me out. That was Survivor Series, my first one, Madison Square Garden, and that disaster happens to me. I come backstage, and Jerry Briscoe meets me at the curtain, and he is furious. And he looks at me. He goes, "What is wrong with you? That is your big push. You don't kick out. What is wrong with you? We were counting on you. This was your big moment in Madison Square Garden." And I'm not going to tell him that Tim counted me out by mistake. I'm not going to stooge Tim White. And so I said, "I'm sorry." And Jerry goes, "That doesn't cover it." And he looks at the replay, and he sees me kick out, and he says, "Why would Tim count you out?" Because now he sees it. I'm like, I got nothing to say. I'm not going to stooge Tim. Tim comes back to me, and he is as apologetic. As soon as he counted me out, by the way, Conrad, he counts me out 1, 2, 3, and he looks up at me, and he realizes what he's done, and he goes, "I'm sorry, kid." And he goes, "You're out of here." The old referee mimic, "Get me out of here." But he felt terrible about it. And he told me later, he goes, "I wouldn't have blamed you if you punched me," which I would have never done. Guy's a legend and a good friend. Just made a mistake. But he came back and came straight to me, just like a man would, and said, "Kid, I ruined your moment in Madison Square Garden." And he said, "I am so sorry." And I said, "Tim, you're a legend. It was an honor to be out there with you. Shit happens." And I said, I think if my career gets over it, it was meant to be. And if it wasn't, it ain't meant to be anyway. I said, shit happens. And we shook hands and went out and had some drinks.
Have you ever been pissed off at anything that ever happened in your career? It feels like anytime something like this happens, you're like, "Oh, well, I guess it wasn't meant to be." Have you just really gone through life like that? Or is that something you adapted later in life?
Something I adapted later. I was a real hothead when I was younger. And I finally realized that I didn't have a lot of control over it. And like something like this, I was very disappointed and I was upset, but I'm not going to be mad at Tim. Tim made a mistake. That's all it was. He made a mistake, and he's a good friend of mine. And he'd have never done something like this on purpose. And what's it going to do? I ruin a friendship also because I act like an impetuous asshole, which, he probably, he would say he deserved. I say he didn't because he's a friend. So no, I just always figured that, whatever happened, you can figure out a way around it. Life kicks you, man. Life kicks you in the balls sometimes. And you can either take it and cry about it and whine about it, or figure out what you're going to do about it.
Hey, speaking of Survivor Series, it's next week. And so I thought, hey, let's take a look and let's revisit some Survivor Series from 26 years ago this week. It was Survivor Series 1999 at the Joe Louis Arena in Detroit. This is probably the show best remembered for when they hit that motherfucker with a car. Of course, I'm talking about when Steve Austin had the hit and run angle, and how it parlayed into Big Show winning the WWF Championship later that night. But it also included the very first Chris Jericho and China match, but also Kurt Angle's televised in-ring debut. So it's a pretty substantial pay-per-view. Let's go back and talk about the China Chris Jericho match. This is obviously something that has been a hot button in wrestling for a little bit at this point, because on the other channel, we saw, Miss Jackie wrestling Disco Inferno, and I guess Disco didn't want to do it to the point that he wound up losing his job in WCW. He does agree to come back, but They want to make sure they get their pound of flesh. So he put Miss Jackie over in the ring. Was there any discussion about Jericho in China? Were the boys anxious to see how's the office going to handle this? How's she going to handle this? And how's Jericho going to handle this?
No, I don't think so. And I'd say I don't think so. I was there, and there wasn't a lot of discussion that I heard about it. China was considered different. They kept billing her as the ninth wonder of the world, and so she was considered different. Nowadays there's not that big of a stereotype between men and women. Lagatha in Vikings, was as great a warrior as Bjornsson or any of the other guys out there. So you have movies that are different now. It wasn't then, but this was kind of the first. But it was completely different when you had somebody build and looked like China. And I thought Chris did a really good job with it. And there wasn't as much pushback. There was a couple guys I think would have said no. But Chris was not one of those guys. Chris was there. Chris was all about business. He always has been. And I don't think any of the boys thought anything at all different about this match or anything else. We were wondering, Chris was obviously leading the match. Chris is a really good wrestler. China was an okay wrestler at best. So we knew that Chris was going to have to, work with a broomstick, as they say. And he did a great job with it.
Hey everybody. So by now you've heard me bragging about saving people money at savewithconrad.com for years, but I thought, you know what? Don't take my word for it. Let's ask someone who really did save with Conrad. Let's welcome in Tyrus. Tyrus, what's going on, man? How are you?
I'm good, Conrad. How about yourself?
Man, I'm delighted to talk to you. I got to ask, what made you come to Save with Conrad originally?
Well, first, I'm a return shopper, if you will. I was listening to the podcast years ago now with you and Bruce, and I just figured we were in the mode for a refinance, and I heard you guys save money, so I called you guys, got hooked up with Jimmy way back then, and that's really how the ball started to roll.
So initially you were interested in lowering your monthly payments, or did you want to knock out some credit card debt, or what was your goal the first time you went to savewithconrad.com?
It was mostly just to get the lower rate, but there's a little bit of credit card debt in there too, so we rolled that all up.
And you got a cheaper monthly payment on the other side of that?
Yeah, yep. And with this time that I used, it saved me quite a bit a month. Yeah.
So let's talk about what brought you back to Save with Conrad. First of all, thank you for using us not once, but twice. I appreciate that. But that was your needs back then. When was that? Was that 2020 that you did that before?
Yeah, it was around that, maybe 2019, somewhere around that.
Okay. So now a few years later, your needs have changed. What prompted you to go to savewithconrad.com this time?
Well, we were looking to refinance once again because we bought during the high rate time. And we had, a little bit of credit card debt, and we thought, why not hit that refinance button? And originally, we were thinking, why not just go through the national brand that was servicing our loan? I called one of them over there, and he crunched the numbers, and he said, no can do. Sorry. And then I thought, I'll just stay with Conrad again. And I called, and the delightful Frances answered, and you know her.
Oh, yeah.
And the first thing after I told her what the national brand said, she just said, are they stupid? We can save you money. And she got the ball rolling. I worked with OG Larry and saving $425 a month.
All right. I love to hear that, man. $425 a month. I love that, dude. Congratulations.
Yeah, thank you.
If you had someone who was on the fence, because I know that there's a lot of people who just know me as the wrestling podcaster, but if you had someone who listens to my pods and they're on the fence about whether or not this is a real service and can he really do this? I mean, what would you say to that?
Absolutely do it. It worked for me multiple times, from Jimmy way back when to Francis and Larry. Just the whole team. They just had nothing but great things to say. They're easy to work with. They worked well with the inspectors and everything like that. It's just a great experience, and I would recommend it to anybody.
Well, I'm glad that we were able to help save you some money, and I would be delighted if we could help save you and your family some money. Do what Tyrus did. Go right now to savewithconrad.com. You can talk to a live person, get a quick quote, or just drop us an email directly at Conrad at savewithconrad.com. And of course, we can still do it the old school way. Give us a call toll free at 888-425-0105. Thanks for all the time today, Tyrus. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Conrad.
NMLS number 2129, Equal Housing Lender. Savewithconrad.com.